Hello everyone, and welcome back to John Builds. Okay, so in today's video we're going to carry on with this stuff of camel, and we're actually going to start adding a lot of these parts, like this these fuel tanks that are made over, well, maybe 3 years ago, and it's now got around to the time that we start to add this onto the stuff of camel. Okay, so these are quite a few of the parts that we're going to add in this next stage of the build. So yeah, it's really going to just kind of start to come together by just adding these parts alone. So I've been finding it quite difficult to try and find a glue that I'm happy gluing these die-cast parts onto stuff of camel, but actually kind of settled with this Aral Die Rapid now. So it's 2 parts epoxy, so you mix these two together and within a couple of hours it's set really good. So yeah, so going forward I'm just going to probably carry on using this. So I've got a little container over that I used before. We're going to mix a bit of this, so just need a bit of the resin. So you have to just try and make sure that you put a good 50-50 mix of the hardener and the resin, and now we're just going to mix these together. It's really important to mix these together really well. Okay, so that should be kind of good to go. Okay, so I've also been working on this instrument panel, so I just tried a little bit of a technique just to try and make it some kind of wood grain effect, and I think that's kind of come out okay. So I was practicing it the first time, but when I actually get to a stage where I think there's a little bit more further on in the build where I have to do some more of this wood grain, so I will show you the technique, but I was just kind of learning it myself when I painted this. But this is going to get attached to this front of these machine gun parts. So I'm going to glue these together in a second, and then that's going to fit on the front there. Kind of all get joined into the chassis. Okay, so using a bit of this epoxy resin just mixed up, I'm just going to put a little bit on these 2 little pegs. And then we can join these 2 parts together. So all we're going to do is just push these together. Don't worry about any kind of overspilling, because it's quite good that once it's fully set, you can come back and just kind of cut that off. I'm just going to grab it, just a clamp either side, and just try and squeeze that evenly. Okay, so we can leave that to dry a second. So we can add this this fuel tank as well. So we've got these 2 fuel tanks that actually had to be added into the body next. Okay, this is where we are, this stage where we left it in the last video, where we just finished off these little sides. So now we've got a couple of locations for these fuel tanks. We've got one that gets glued in here, we've got the larger one that's going to get dropped inside, and then we've got this this one that sits on top as well. So kind of got to glue them in the correct order. So what I think we'll do is we'll get this one in first. So bring it across my 2 parts epoxy again. I'm just going to rub a little bit around them little pins. A little bit across his face. You have about a working time around about 5 minutes for this epoxy. So then we've got the 2 holes on the front, so we're going to get this in there best we can. Leave that there for a second. Probably get another clamp on this. Okay, so that's clamped in place. Like I say, it'll go off in half an hour, but the recommended gluing time is around about 2 hours. So while that's gluing there, we can drop this large fuel tank in between that section. So same again, we've got 4 little locations where we can apply glue. We've got one either side. There's actually one at the back, but then we've got a couple where you can just put a little bit either side. Yeah, so it's crazy to think that I've started making these and polishing this 3 years ago. So actually to be able to fit the parts now, it's really good. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on that bracket. A little bit on that one. A little bit just on that backrest. And then there's probably a little touch either side, because that kind of squeezes in between that two holes there. And we can gently lower this in. So it's making sure that that's sat right. I've actually put that little bit of glue a bit too high, so we'll get that out, just get that off. That's way too high. I didn't realise it was that high up. So this probably would be difficult to remove this after the glue is dry, so we'll get rid of that now on both sides. Actually, quite a bit lower, about there. I'll just try that again. I'll just push that down. I'm just going to take a little bit of this scrap piece of these wood that we've been using to finishing the frames off, and I'm just going to spread out some of the excess of this epoxy, and then we can kind of scrape it off as well. Let's do the same on this one. That's taken most of the excess off, and like I say, when it's dry we can come back in just with the sharp knife and take the rest off. That's sat nice like that. Okay, so once that's dry, then we have got to just put a couple more of these tension wires between these two holes there and them two holes there, and then we can then glue on the third fuel tank that fits there, but we've got to let that one dry a little bit. Okay, so I'm just going to leave these to dry for a couple of hours. We'll come back, we'll mix a little bit more of this epoxy resin, we'll glue that in, we'll glue in this like section that's like for the ammunition for the main guns, and then we'll also glue in this instrument panel as well, and that kind of sits around about this section. Okay, so I gave the epoxy resin about an hour to dry, so it's fully set now. So now I can move on to adding the third fuel tank and the rest of this instrument panel and all the like gun magazines. Okay, so that's all fully set for the that fuel tank and that fuel tank, and I've also added the tension wires. If you'd like to see how I do that technique, I did that on the previous video, so you can kind of watch how I add the tension wires. But I'll put it on the side angle now, so you can actually see how that fuel tank's glued in. You can see where I just added that little bit of extra epoxy just to make sure, like I say, in about an hour's time I can kind of clean it up a little bit, but that's not too bad at all. Okay, so now we've got to fit this third fuel tank. That just sits behind the pilot. So what I've been on a plane like this that was literally made out of nothing, it must have been scary to have so many fuel tanks around you. But you've kind of, this is the part that we're going to add on a little bit later in the build. So they sit like that, so you kind of want them to almost line up with them holes. That one's a little bit out, but same again, I can probably just bend that slightly and adjust that so it just lines up a little bit better on there. But this is something that we'll add on a little bit later in the build. Okay, so on this third field tower, it's got these little tabs, and I'm just going to put a little bit of epoxy on there, and let's have a look. When we squeeze that in, maybe just put a little tiny bit on that front edge. So just a bit either side. And then, yeah, a little bit along there. And then we'll drop these in. Like I say, while you can, just use a little bit of scrap and just take off a little bit of the excess epoxy where possible. Spread it out a little bit even. Same on that side. It's not going to be seen when you put that top cover on, but it's all about just improving your techniques. Okay, so now we've got this part together to fit together. So they're going to glue on top of each other like that, and then we've got these two location holes there. They're going to fit on top of them two little pins down there. So yeah, so I'm going to just glue on them pins. So what I'm going to do, put a little bit of epoxy on these locations along that edge. A bit more on that one, along that edge as well. Maybe spread some along this. Then we're going to lower this in. Probably has to go in slightly an angle first, and then you can let that press on. There's nothing really to like indicate exactly why you level that. So it is going to lean forward. But when we put this instrument panel on, that will keep it in the correct position. I'm just going to put it like that a second, because it's wanting to lean forward, so that'll just keep it in the correct position a minute while I put some glue onto the back of this instrument panel. So I'm just going to put some all over this face. And then some of these parts I'm just going to kind of go inside the chassis so we can put a little bit down the edges as well. So this is going off quite quick this time. So we're going to push that in. As you can see now, having that instrument panel in kind of keeps that back of that magazine in place. So what I might actually do as well is I might just stick a little piece of this extra wood that we've got just in between them. It's just a bit of an extra little position for that instrument panel. But that's all got that nice. Yeah, kind of happy with how that's looking. It's really starting to alter exactly how this stock of camels really starting to take some kind of shape of a plane now. Okay, so that's pretty much everything then what we've got to do in this stage, like I say, a little bit later on in the build, is when we start to add some more of these sections. So in the instructions, we actually paint this in the wood grain effect, but I'm actually going to actually line this in real wood to make it obviously just look a little bit more authentic. But that's probably going to be in a couple of videos time. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed today's video. Like I say, in the next video, I'm actually going to be attaching this pre-built wing. We're going to fit this into the jig and glue it into the correct orientation. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you all again soon. Take care, everyone.